Hello, everyone. It's Amy, and welcome back for week 6 of Crafting for Pleasure. So, today we are going to make a traveler's glue book. So, I got to thinking, I have this Variety magazine, and I don't even know how I got this magazine. It came for 2 years. I didn't order it. It's not not my thing. But anyways, the nice thing about it is it was really heavy and it's really quite large. It's over 12 inches long. It probably 13 inches long. And so I liked how when I made a glue book out of it, it wound up being very, very long and skinny. And I got to thinking about that the other day, and I thought, traveler's notebooks are long and skinny. And I don't know why, I'm just kind of drawn to that right now. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to make a traveler's glue book because I've been wanting to play around with glue books again. And glue books are just literally for the fun of it. There's no reason to do it. You don't really do anything with them when you're done. They are fun to go back and look at times, and they're fun to just, it's a craft that you could have a bunch of people over, and you could all sit there and glue book. You could cut things out, you could glue things in, and it's the type of thing that you can chat and laugh and just have a good time, and you're not distracted by what you're doing necessarily. And yet, if you do it alone, it is still distracting to your mind. So it's a little contradictory, but that really is, to me, that's how it works for me. I can glue book without thinking about it while I'm talking to somebody, but if I'm all by myself, it still takes me away. So I thought I'm going to just show you how to do a traveler's glue book. If you are a traveler's notebook kind of person, you can make this so that it fits into your traveler's notebook. So you can have your notebook part there, but you can also have this there so that, if you're even out and about, you take your traveler's notebook with you, you'll always have something crafty to do. Well, you'll need glue, but you can even still just cut whatever. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to need a pair of scissors, an X-Acto knife, some stick glue, any kind of glue, but I like stick glue because you don't have to wait for it to dry. Just I got some colory papers to finish my cover with, and a magazine. Now, a traveler's notebook is 4 1/3 by 8 1/4. So you want to have a magazine like this magazine is too wide to do it the way that I want to do it, because when this one is ready, this is 5 1/2 inches wide, and a traveler's notebook is only 4 1/3. So you don't want to have a magazine that big. You want to have a magazine that is approximately 8 1/2 inches or less, and actually the little bit less works good. The one that I have kind of ready to work with, that was 8 1/2 inches, and it wound up being it's between 8 1/3 and 8 1/2. So a magazine that is around 8 1/4, I think would be the perfect size. So to start with, what we're going to do is I fold the cover. Now this one has 2 covers on it. I'm not really sure why, but I don't want 2 covers, so I'm just going to take this one off. He's kind of cool. He'd be fun to play with when you're gluing things. So that was just on there with that sticky stuff. I want to take that off so I'm not getting it all over. I've never seen that before. I guess they couldn't decide on what they wanted their cover to look like. Did they have a different month on it? This says June. No, June of 2018. And I get my magazines from my library. They let you take 5 magazines per visit. And I only get 5 magazines once in a while. I don't want to take all of them. I want to leave them for other people too. But so possibly check with your local library if you don't have any magazines. Check with friends. When you go to the doctor's office, if they got a bunch of magazines sitting there, ask them if you can have one because they might be happy to give you one. I have magazines in my office that have been there for a really long time, and if somebody asked me if they could have one, I wouldn't have a problem with it. So just find some place to get a magazine. And you could even check with your secondhand stores like Salvation Army or something like that and ask them if somebody ever drops off magazines, because people drop off stuff that they know is not going to get sold, but they don't want to deal with it. So they just drop it off and, let the Salvation Army deal with it. So if you ask them, do you ever get magazines? If you do, could I have a couple? They very possibly would do that. So just think of the different places you can get it. So to start with, we're going to take the cover and we're going to fold it in on itself and fold it in half. We're going to get it stuck right down in the crease of the magazine. Now there's not really a place for the cover for it to fit way in there. In the center there's a little more where you kind of fit it in, but not that much because of the way magazines are glued. But we're just going to fold that in half. Isn't he cute? Oh, I like him. Okay, so now we have our cover. And this is how wide our glue book is going to be. So let's see if that is 4 1/4 inches. So that is awesome. And by the time that we have the other cover on here, we're going to hit that 4 1/3. So, okay, so that's our cover. And then what we're going to do, I like to glue the cover down. So I like to glue it together so that it makes it sturdier, because you want a nice sturdy cover. Your pages, we're going to fold those in half too for a little bit of sturdiness. If you don't want to fold all of them in half and everything, you can just cut your glue book to the right size and just have thin pages. You are going to glue stuff into the book, so a thin page doesn't really make that much of a difference. But to me, I just like to have the sturdiness of having it folded in half, which gives you 2 thicknesses of the magazine paper, because magazine paper is really, really thin. So if you wanted to right now and said, I don't want to fold a bunch of papers, then what you could do is you just go here, and I would go just barely inside. You could do like this. You could put a line right here, because you know now where your cover is. And then I would go just barely inside that line and cut it. If you're going to cut it, that gives you just a little bit of an edge on your cover. When you're folding them, they wind up being the same size. There's nothing you can do about that. But if you were going to cut it, you could make it just a touch, 1/8 of an inch, maybe smaller. But don't do this and then cut it right away. You want to take your back cover and get it out of the way. And then you could cut this if you want to, because you need that back cover. So make sure you do that. If you forget and you don't leave it there, you can always adjust later. You can put it back on or whatever. Find another magazine cover. You can take this one and glue it to the back. Okay. So then what we're going to do is, what I like to do is I kind of look, we're going to fold maybe 20 pages. That will definitely be enough. And there's a lot of pages in here. Is this even numbered? There's 120, which means there are 60 pieces of paper in here. So we're going to fold 20 and we're going to take 40 out. But what I like to do is I kind of look at them and say, okay, is there anything on here that I want, that I might want to cut out and glue into my glue book? Because if so, I'm going to rip this page out, because it doesn't matter what 20 pages. That's really pretty too. Now, I could say, well, he's pretty. I could leave him in there as a background, but I kind of like this, and I might want to use part of him for something, so I think I will take that page out. Okay, so then here, the flowers are a little bit pretty. I don't see anything here that I really, really want. So this page I am going to fold in half. And you can fold it either way. You can have this red side out, or if you want, you can fold it in. And I don't really like just fold it in half. I try to tuck it into, just kind of tuck it in there so that it doesn't like come unfolded every time that you move the page. Now you can take your stick glue on each one of the pages and put some glue on it like this. For some reason, I don't really find it necessary, but you can. So there's that one. And then this one, those are kind of cute squares. They'd be kind of fun to possibly cut out. I like these bits of color here, so I'm going to take that page out. And you're just going to go through and just kind of decide. Also, don't forget, look at the words. Are there any words there that you think, oh, I really like that word, I want that? I don't see any, so I'm just going to fold this one this way. Do I want those facing each other? I don't think I do. I don't think I want them both slid into the same spot. So I'm going to fold this one this way. And that's all just a matter of, you know, just thinking about how you might want it. There's no right way or wrong way. Like I said, if you don't want to fold them, you can just go ahead and cut them. And so you're going to go through your whole magazine. Since I glued the first page, we'll glue this one too. And when you do that, you can kind of tuck that in and then bring it back down, because that's the way it's going to lay when it's closed. So that way, you know, it's gluing it into the right position. I don't know exactly how to say that, but there we go. And so is there anything here that I want? Not necessarily, but I need to get rid of 40 pages, so I'm going to take that out because I need some room. Now, if for sure you're going to put this in your traveler's notebook, what you may want to do is kind of find the middle. We're already missing pages, I can see here. But find the middle and take a few pages out of there, like all in a row. So that, because I do believe, and I don't know, I don't have a traveler's notebook, but I think that traveler's notebooks have like a string. That's how they get held together, because they have a cover, and then you put whatever you decide to put in there. Like they have notebooks that you can put in of all different types of paper. I think you can buy a calendar for them. So I think you can maybe buy a pocket to put in there. And I think all those things are held in with like a string that holds them in. So you may want to go towards the middle of your traveler's notebook. And if I was going to do 20 pages, I suppose maybe I should have done 10. And then ripped out a bunch and then choose 10 more behind that to save, so that literally I know it's in the middle. So there's 1, 2. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 10 because I do want that, and I don't care whether it faces the other or not, and I'm not going to. So there's 1, 2, 3. And you don't have to do 20 pages either. You might only want to do 10 pages. So, you know, that is, oh, that's kind of cool. Look at how that turned out right there on that half a page. This is either 5 or 6. I don't really remember. But we just want to get to where the center is. And then we're going to pull out some pages so that our string or whatever it is that's in the, you know, maybe it's a elastic. I'm going to guess it's maybe an elastic. In that traveler's notebook, so that you'll have a place to fit this in. See, now I'm kind of getting out just a little bit, and that's okay with me. I don't really mind, but you do want to take your time a little bit to try and keep them back. So how many do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's going to be the center of our book. And then we would make sure that we had 10 back here. So there's 1, skip a few, 2, skip a few, 3, 4, 5, because you're folding some and ripping some out. So that's what I'm doing there. I think that was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 7, 8, 9, 10. We have to have some to rip out between them. I forgot about that. So where was that spot that I was ripping them out? That's really hard to tell. But we're going to take out these right here. And so this is going to be our middle point, so that if we want to actually put it in our traveler's notebook, there will be a bit of a gap here. Now, you're not going to necessarily see it really well, but it's here, and that's the thing. So you know that at the 10th page, you will be able to just put your string in there, and it will hold it just a little better than putting it where you didn't possibly take out a few extra pages. So that's where your string is going to go right there. Okay, so once you get the whole thing folded, I'm not going to fold the whole thing because you don't need to sit here and watch me do that. And I think I've given you all of the things I've thought about. Once you've folded the whole thing, except for your back cover, then what you're going to do is you can use, if you have a scoreboard, you can just score it. I just took it and folded it right, the back cover right even with my pages basically. I think I even went back just a touch. And then if you have a scoreboard, score it like every 1/8 of an inch. If you don't have a scoreboard, just keep, like, fold it there and then fold it just a little bit like 1/8 of an inch. And what I do is I just move it just a touch here, and then I hold it, and then I just push it here. So long as you keep this edge straight, and then just go ahead and fold it maybe about 1/8 of an inch more. Hold that on there to hold it straight. And what we're doing is we're softening, about 1 inch. So if you can see that, I've done that. And I just did it at my chair. So I just kind of went back and forth till I made this round bit here. So, and that's literally just because it's folded, folded, folded. And then I kind of folded it the other way. I want it to be soft. Because what I want is, like right now, it will fold right around my cover. But I also don't want it this tight. Once I start gluing stuff in, I'm going to need a little more room to expand. So by doing that, we'll be able to move this back like that, and that will let it expand that far. And you're really not going to want it to expand much more than that because it's going to be in your traveler's notebook. Or even if it's not, you don't want it to be too fat. So that's why we did that. So now we've got this nice rounded area here to where we can, I like it to be tight. I really don't. I could have folded it right here and then just let that just kind of stick out there. I don't really care for that. I like it to be able to be tight. Don't know why. It's just kind of my thing. So once we've done that, we're going to go to the very last fold here, and we are going to fold a point. So I'm going to open this up. No, I'm going to leave it shut for a second because I can really see my fold here. And I know. I will draw it on here. So where is that? That last fold is right there. I draw a line there so I know where that's at. Okay. So that's our very last fold right there. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold in this point, this corner, and fold it nice and straight. Line it up with that last fold, or that line that we just drew. Make sure you kind of keep it in line. And then we're going to glue that down. We want that for stability, so we're not going to cut it off. just like that. And then we're going to come over to this other side and do the same thing. Fold this corner to the line, make it nice and straight, and then we're going to glue that down. Just like that. Okay, so now this will be our cover. Now what we want to do is we want this to tuck in. That will keep our booklet closed, especially if we're not putting it in a traveler's notebook, so that when we carry it around, it'll be nice and closed. So what we want to do is we want to go back to this first line again, because as it expands, we're going to let it expand that far. So when it expands and goes all the way to there, that's going to move our cover. So I can make it tight, and here's the edge of my cover. But as it gets looser and looser, until I get all the way to that fold, it's going to move back to here. So we want to put we're going to put a slit in here for this to tuck into, and we want it to be back this far, plus so that when it expands, if we put that cut right here, it would tuck in, and actually we have to go back a little bit, but if we put it where this is closed, then as the cover moves, the slit would be here. Well, where's our cover going to tuck into? It can't reach it anymore. So we want to go to the farthest point back, which would be if we expanded it all the way. So we just kind of want to say, and you could say, this is an inch, so go back an inch. From here, go back an inch. But I just usually, so I don't have to measure it, I just go ahead and say, okay, if this fold was all the way to the edge of my book, then that's where the end of my cover will be, here. Now remember that this cannot tuck into a cut that's right next to it. It could go up to that cut, but it won't tuck in. So now we want to go back. Oh, I would say, excuse me, let's go back about, let's just kind of like push that down flat and go back that far. This is about 3/4 of an inch. Between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch, right there. And so that's where I'm going to put my cut. That is where my flap will tuck in, whether it's here or all the way back to there. It's going to tuck into this spot. Now, you have to remember, because this is an angle, as it goes in, if this is where our cut is, if we go in just a little bit, we are going to need our line to be this long. But if we go all the way in, we need our line, I'm going to guess it's about here, to be that long. We need to be able to fit this in there. And you can measure it if you want to put it all the way in. Because we're going to cover this, we don't need to. So I'm going to say this is where our slice is going to be. Right here. So let's do this all the way. So this is the line that we are going to cut. We don't want it, there's no need to have it that big. So if we slide this in a little bit, that will still slide in enough to hold it. And so we need the line this big. From there to there, that is about 5 3/4 inches. But remember, we want it to slide all the way in to start with. So at that point, it needs to be here and here. And so that is almost 7 inches. So that's the thing. Remember that you want it to slide. Now, if you don't cut it long enough and you go to slide this in and it doesn't fit, then you just extend it a little bit. So that's okay. And you can't really overcut it, except you don't want to get too close to the edges because you want your cover to be solid. So now we're going to cut it. And normally I would just stick, I'm going to grab my little cutting board real quick. It's just right here. So here we go. All right, so I'm going to put this in here. And I want to start there. And I want to end here. So I'm going to grab my X-Acto knife. And if you don't have an X-Acto knife, you can use your scissors if you have a sharp pair of scissors. They will kind of work. Be careful not to like grab a hold of the scissors part here and cut yourself. But you could do like that. And then, you know, if you need to, or put just a little slice right in the middle and then cut like that and cut like that. I like an X-Acto knife, and I get these at Harbor Freight for, I don't remember, like 89 cents or something. They were fairly cheap. So, and then when you have these knives, they have all these little slices. And I know a lot of you people may know a lot of this, but sometimes people don't know. So these little slices, I don't know if you can quite see, there's little lines there on the blade. Each one of those little slices is a new blade. So when this one gets dull, you just kind of line it up a little bit there. Take this cap off. And it has a little spot that the blade will fit into. And you just take the cap off. You put the blade in here. If I can see. It's not working on this one. Some of them, they make it so that you can put the blade in there and it will snap that off. But I don't see that this one is going to work that way. It's got a little, usually it fits into the little indentation there. Okay, so it doesn't work that way. Put this back. You just use a pair of pliers. Line them up right with the line that's sliced right there. And then you're just going to snap it. I don't like to hold my hand over these when I cut them because I'm afraid that it will get me. So I usually hold a piece of fabric or something. Let me grab a piece here. To just make sure that nothing goes flying and nothing like cuts you. So there we go. That's the piece that comes off every single time. Then wrap that up in some masking tape or a little piece of fabric and some regular tape. Wrap that up before you throw it away so it doesn't cut anyone. Set that right there and I'll take care of that in just a minute. No, I have some masking tape right here. And because I'll just tape it, there we go. I just don't want to get it lost on the floor. We have a little tiny dog that seems to find anything sharp, and she loves to chew on it. I don't know why. Okay, so now we have a brand new bit of a blade right there. So I'm just going to take this. I'm going to go, here's my one mark, and there's the other. So I'm just going to cut from there to there. Okay. There we go. Now let's see if that's enough or if we need to go maybe just a little bit further. So we're just going to stick this in here. Push it in. And that does go in there very nicely. So we'll just leave it like that. And then as our book expands, we can just keep moving it out and moving it out. Our book will expand that large and it will still be tucked in there. So that, pull it out and untuck it. So that's how you keep it all closed up. Now, I really kind of want to make a pretty cover. And so I brought out some of my own papers that I've colored, and I just kind of want to I kind of like the pinkish one. I really do like this pinkish one. These ones they're all a lot the same. These are just different handmade stamps that I've made, or from the recycle store that I made. And maybe I like this one better. No, I like the pink one. So I'm going to use the pink one. But before I start, remember that, oh, and you know what? I did this wrong, to tell you the truth. I really should have cut this down prior to putting in my slit. So what I'm going to do now, since I forgot to cut this down to the correct size, what I am going to do right this second is I'm going to take some off the top and the bottom instead of just taking it off the bottom. Normally I would just cut it to 8¼ inches, which is the tallness of a traveler's notebook. I would cut it to there, but I don't want to. If I do that here, 8¼ inches is right here in the middle of my flap. So I don't want to do that. So what I need to do is say, let's see, if I come down, what do we have here? 10¾ So I need to take off 2½ inches. So I'm going to come down 1¼ here, and then come up 1¼ here. And is that going to be from there to there, 8¼ inches? Yes. Okay, so that's what I'm going to have to do. Normally, don't fold this, don't make your slice, just go ahead and cut 8¼ inches, then fold your cover, and then make your slice. It will be much better. But there's always a fix to everything. So we're going to just take this, I'm going to hold it here, put my cutting board underneath, and just, I really probably should, I'm going to do 2 lines. I always say 2 or 3 lines is what you really need to do to make sure. All right, this one is 1¼ If you do 3 lines, you will know if you're straight or not. If you do 2 lines, they could be crooked, and 1¼ They could be crooked and you may not know, because if they're crooked, it doesn't matter, they'll still line up. So if you do 3 lines, definitely if one of them is off, you'll notice it. The other 2 will line up and that one won't. So there are my 3 marks there. And I'm just going to line those up and use my X-Acto knife. Now you are not going to cut this in 1 or 2 cuts. So just go ahead whenever you are trying to, it will be much neater whenever you're trying to do this. If you do just keep cutting and cutting and cutting till you feel that you've gone all the way through. Now this, and when you use your knife, get it to where you want it, and then you pull this second little bit up. That locks it so that it doesn't move like it was just doing on me because I didn't lock it. So I'm just going to keep going here until I make it through. There's a lot of glue on this spine, which I guess is a good thing. That gives us a pretty sturdy spine there then. My goodness. There we go. Okay, see, that would have been easier had I done it first. Alrighty. Now from here, it's 1¼ I'm going to come over here, 1¼ 1¼ I'll line these up. Whenever you're using a blade, I am pulling this towards me, but make sure that you stand off a little bit to the side. Don't pull it right exactly directly towards you in case you slip. And the reason I think about that is because I've got the glue end on this side now, which really catches. And then it releases, so I don't want to accidentally slice myself. There we go. Did I do it? Yeah, but except I didn't do it right there somewhere. There we go. Now you can use these for something else too. You could actually cut them down right about here and you would have a little tiny, tiny book. As a matter of fact, we could take the pages and like fold them in to about that size. Oh, they wouldn't even have to, but we could actually make a little glue book out of this. That would be cute. Okay, so there we go. Now my flap is still within the center and I didn't cut my slit. So I'm glad that I thought of that first. So now we have this notebook, which like I said, this one I think is a little bit too big, but I don't know how traveler's notebooks work exactly, but I think they are kind of open on the front. So this one is now, it is almost 4.5. So it's a little bit big. And even though this was, it was 8.5 inches wide, so I thought, well, that's going to be 4.25, but it wasn't, because by the time you do all the folding and you get the flapped over here and everything, it makes it just a little bigger than actually halfway. And because you've got your glue spine here, as you fold them in, they're not actually folding an exact half. So let's see what the other one turned out to be. The other one, I believe, was like 8 inches. Was it 8 inches? This was 8.25. So how large is it now that one is 4.25? So see, it would be 4 1/8 if it actually folded in half, but it didn't. So an 8.25 magazine works really well. It definitely will fit. So, but I don't have a traveler's notebook anyway, so it's okay to me if it doesn't fit. All right, now I'm going to, well, this might actually, I wonder if this will cover not quite the whole thing, maybe. Cover the cover. It's not quite big enough. The paper only comes this far. And I think I want to fold it over on the inside, so I think I'm going to do it like this. And fold it over to that center point. Okay, now I'm going to glue it here, but I'm not going to glue the other side yet because I need to make the slice. So I need to see where the slice is at. You could measure again, but even measuring it, finding exactly the same spot where you made the super thin slice, it's going to be pretty hard. So we're going to glue one side down, and it doesn't matter which one. And then we will open up the other side. I'm just going to line this up. It is a little bit long. Because it's not 8.25, it's 8.5. There we go. Push that down. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that slice right here. And then we'll have the slice on the other side. So when let me see, that starts there and goes to there. After we glue it, we'll open up and we'll glue this, or we'll make a slice for this side. goes from there to there. Okay, so we have our slice. Now we can glue this side. I don't want to get glue on my cutting mat. And I'm just using, this is Elmer's all-purpose glue. I also have a permanent glue stick that I use. A lot of people do use the kids glue, the Elmer's kids glue. I've got it, this one. The only thing about it is, the cool thing about it is it goes on purple, so you know if you missed a spot. That's actually quite awesome. But the kids glue actually is not a permanent glue because it's washable. If it's washable, that means it's not permanent. At least that's kind of the way that I look at it. But, and that one does sometimes, it does actually like let loose. So, but if that's what you have, it's a glue book, remember? We're doing it for fun. So it really doesn't matter if it actually, if a piece lets loose. Sometimes a piece will let loose and I'll like either glue it back down, but once in a while, a piece will let loose and I'll look at it and think, you know what, I don't like that anyways. And so I'll just take it off and put something else there. I'm just going to trim this. And I need to trim it here too. And then I'm going to wrap this around the spine. There we go. So I'm just going to put some glue on the spine. And I think the biggest thing about when you're doing glue books, when you're gluing anything, make sure you get the edges. That's the big thing. If you don't get some in the middle, yeah, that's not the best sometimes, but if you don't get the edges, it is going to lift. So get those edges. When you come around the corner, make sure that you really wrap it and press if you've glued it there. And there we go. Now we still need a slice here so that we can tuck it all together. I'm going to take this magazine page because I don't want to get glue on my book. Okay, so now I'm going to go on the inside and my cut's there and right there. Okay, and again, if we didn't cut it quite big enough, then we can just make it a little bit bigger. So there we go. It will fit when it's completely full, and it doesn't quite fit right now. I'm not quite long enough right here. So I'm going to extend that just a little bit. I kind of like it when those things happen so that I can show you, like, because that the cover just was not sliding in there far enough. There we go. Now it is tight there, and it is tight there, and it is tight there. So there we go. That fits. Now the question is, what do I do here? And, you know, I've got plenty of paper here that, you know, would kind of match, but I'm thinking maybe a solid purple or something here. And remember that we just glued this, so you don't want to like make everything super tight and leave it together. You kind of want to move it around just a little bit. This is going to hold these two pieces apart, and yet it's not in there really tight where the glue is going to stick to this, and that's not going to get glued together. So we're going to let that sit like that for that to glue. So this is our little traveler's glue book, because now we've got all of these pages to glue on, and I didn't think that it would take quite this long to do the whole construction of it, but then the thing is, and we will do some of this later then, now we take these pages these are all the pages that I pulled out of that magazine. These are the ones from this magazine. But look at the little puppy. Isn't he cute? And you know, the thing is, if you don't like to fussy cut, you don't have to fussy cut like this. And whenever you are fussy cutting, turn the paper. But if you want to just cut out a square, remember that especially glue booking, you know, it's literally just for the fun of it. It has nothing to do with anything spectacular. You know, you're just supposed to have a good time. So here's this cute little puppy. Now, I kind of cut the rug off on the other side, but maybe I just want to leave the rug here. And I could do that. Just do it like that. And then if you want to, which you don't need to, but if you want to cut out that little piece right there, just use your little X-Acto knife. And this cutting board that I got came from the Dollar Tree, and they do still have them. Don't go to a craft store and spend a whole ton of money on a cutting board if you only need a little one. And actually, a cutting board from the Dollar Tree would work also. He's cute. So he can go in our book. And so now what you do is you go through your pages and you say, ooh, look, challenge. I like that word. So we're going to cut that out. And we're going to keep it. And where are we going to keep it? Well, for right now, we're going to keep it in our glue book, even though I don't have any pages that I want to glue on yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these pages and I am going to just fold it in half. And I'm going to trim. I just don't like the jaggedy edge. Actually, had I put the jaggedy edge as the flap, it wouldn't have bothered me at all, but I don't like it on the inside. So I'm just going to do that. And do that. And this is where we're going to keep them. Now, I know that this is too long, but I don't want them to slide out, but I also I don't want to glue these two sides. Because gluing those two sides and then trying to get what's out there, you literally just have to dump it all out if you've got the edges glued. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to leave it as long as it is. I'm going to put my stuff in there. And just like we did here, top and bottom, I'm going to say, okay, right about here, I need to fold this. I'm going to fold it just like that. Now, if you want it to be a pocket, you can make it into a pocket. You can glue those ends. I just don't want it to be. I'm going to cut off. I'm going to cut just a little bit of an angle here so that when it folds in, see, I cut a little bit on an angle up to the flap. So when this folds over, it's just not catching. Then I'm just going to take this side, and I want it to be just a touch smaller than my book, so I'm going to fold it right to about there. And I'm going to cut in just a little bit, right up to that point. So we went up on an angle towards our flap. And then I'm going to even take my flap and just kind of round that corner off, just because I feel like it. And then I'll round this corner off. Okay, so fold these in and fold this down. Because we have a cover on our traveler's notebook, it's going to hold things inside. If I can get this over here. Okay, this is just going to fit right in there anywhere. There we go. Now we've got it, but when we open this up, it's not going to fall. It's not going to fall out. And when we want to get the stuff out, instead of having to try and dump it out this way, we're going to be able to open it up. We can open it right up, and there would be our thing sitting inside. Now, if you don't want as much bulk as having two layers there, you can go ahead and cut this inside flap off too, because you just need that one to hold things in. So if you want, you could just cut right along that line. So that now when you fold it in, you only have one flap, which is going to work just as well. And if you want to glue that down, like I said, go right ahead. I prefer not to, because I want to be able to open this up. And when I'm going to put things back, instead of having to, if it's all glued shut, this is all glued shut, and I've just got this little opening. I'm not trying to stuff it in there. See, even right now, like this is letting loose a little bit because it's not glued, but if it was glued, it wouldn't. And so then it's just quite tight. So, and then if something gets stuck in there, you're having to kind of fish it out because you can't really reach in there. They're magazine pages, they're thin. But so you make basically like an envelope, and you just don't glue it. You put your stuff in there and you only just close it. So there we go. And you can make quite a few of them. You could make one for words. You could make one for, you know, animals, one for people, one for food, one for whatever, you know, one just for fun stuff. And just store them in there so that when you start with your first page, you get started, you put some color on there, you do whatever you want. Look, there's a puppy there too. See? So maybe this will be a puppy page. Maybe I'll go around him when I kind of cover my background a little bit. And you don't even have to cover the background because we have two thicknesses. It works just perfect the way it is. You can just collage right over top of this and just leave the parts and the bits that you want to see, leave them uncovered. So there it is. This is our Traveler's Glue Book. And so I may like mess around with this with you guys in the future, or just come back and show you what I've done. But I think that we'll come back and we'll at least harvest some of the things that we got here and put them in, at least make a few more envelopes and get a few things in here to use for our Traveler's Glue Book. And then we'll have it for when we want it. So thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Try and put some color under here because YouTube does not pick the best pictures for a background, and I really don't know how to take the pictures and then put them in my computer and then upload that. I just, whatever picture they pick, that's the picture I get. So a lot of times they do, though, if the whatever it is, AI sees color or something, sometimes it puts that as my thumbnail. So hopefully, like, it will take some color for the thumbnail, because the magazine themselves, the way that they aren't the prettiest to look at. So, but thanks again. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Please leave a comment if you get a chance. It really does help. Thumbs up if you like it. And I will see you next week. I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.